Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this podcast. I don't know from where you are tuning in from, but I want to greet you and salute you based on the context of your timing. So, whatever your time is, wherever you are, I greet you. You are welcome to this podcast, The Wealthy Place. I am excited that you allowed me into your space this morning. Thank you for doing that. And I know that you will never regret allowing me into your space. You will be blessed. And there are a lot of things that we're going to learn today. If you have people around where you are, get them and let's start this journey today. Get people, anybody you can get, please get them, because the subject we are about to start discussing is a very important subject that applies to everyone, including children. So children can get involved, can learn a lot from this, because the Bible tells us to train a child in the way he should go. So when he is old, he will not depart from it. So this is part of that training that everybody needs, including children. So I welcome us again to the wealthy place. So today, like we said last week, is a very interesting day, and there's a very interesting topic that we're going to look at. And the series we want to start today is the series on biblical principles of wealth creation. That's what we want to start today. So today we want to do a definition of some terms so that we get conversant with what we're talking about, because sometimes when we use certain dictions or words, people don't really understand what they mean. They may be high sounding, particularly when it has to do with children's involvement, or some people that are not as educated in this manner as we are. So we'll break it down to the point that even children can understand it. So what is biblical? Remember, we're looking at biblical principles of wealth creation. So what is biblical? Biblical simply means that it's based on the Bible, the Holy Writ. That's what it means. And somebody may want to ask, why the Bible? Why not some other material? Why not some other books? Why not some other sources and all whatnot? The reason we are taking these things from the Bible is because the Bible has been adjudged from many quarters as the most consistent and stable book of all times. It's an ancient writing, yes, but with contemporary applications. We see in the Bible stories, but the Bible is not just a storybook. It is a book of principles. Underlying every story that we find is a principle. If, for instance, you go to the Bible in the book of Genesis chapter 1, that narration of creation outlines some salient principles of life, particularly principles of administration and management, and leadership. You see those principles outlined in the story of creation. So the Bible is the most stable and consistent book. All other books have been revised and then upgraded. Some things added, some things removed. But you cannot add or remove anything from the scriptures, from the Bible. The only thing is that we can adjust the language of the Bible to meet our contemporary times without altering its meaning. So we don't add to it and we don't subtract to it, because even in it, it is stated that you don't do that. Because if you add to it, the plagues written here will be added. If you subtract from it, then your name will be subtracted from the book of life. Secondly, the Bible is the most stable and consistent book because of its author. All other books are authored by men. Men have frailties. Men have limitations. Men, as time progresses, men could start discovering and researching on certain things that they want to add to maybe a material that they have produced. So men are fallible, and they have authored some of these other books. That is why these books are constantly being revised. You see this edition today, then fifth edition, then sixth edition, and whatever, these edition. And in each edition, you add so many other things, and then take out some other things that have become obsolete, because man is finite in understanding, but God is infinite, who is the author of the Bible. So God is infinite in understanding. And there's a nature of God you also find in Isaiah chapter 46 verse 10. God said that he is God, that he declares the end from the beginning. And from ancient times, that which is yet to happen. And he says it's his counsel that shall stand. So when God speaks, he captures the past, the present, and the future. So the future is endless. So you can't say that this is when the future ends. So God Almighty is eternal in nature, and everything he authors is also eternal in nature. And it's very important to understand that the Bible, though an ancient writing, has eternal application. That's the point. So you see how relevant the Bible is in every civilization of man. So the Bible will outlive all civilizations of men, because God Almighty, who authored it, outlives all civilizations of men. And guess what again? Man can die. That is why sometimes man's materials can disappear, but God cannot die. That is the reason the Bible does not disappear. They have tried, many people have tried to destroy this book, but it's indestructible because the author is indestructible. This is very important that we know that. And you see the limitations that we find in man, we don't find them in God. We would have used news or newspaper or some of these other things to do some of these trainings or discussions. But you see, news is fluid. What is news today may not be news tomorrow. Actually, you may get a piece of information now. In the next 5 minutes, is no longer news. It's now obsolete. And this is the transition we have among men. So if we use the newspaper or the news, we will build a fluid society, a society that will not have foundation or stability. Why we use the Bible is that the foundation of the Bible is sure. It doesn't shift like that of man. It doesn't shift. For instance, Forbes could say that today, this is the wealthiest man on earth. Tomorrow, another person takes over. Then next, another person takes over. And it keeps fluctuating like this. But the king of the Bible remains king. So we won't hear in the Bible today that God is king. Then tomorrow we'll not hear, hey, he's no longer God though. He's another being that is king. It doesn't happen. God is king. He has an endless life. His life does not end like the life of man. That is why even the Holy Bible says that God is not man. So he can't be likened to man. That is why we use the Bible. So whatever we pull from the Bible is essentially eternal in nature. It will outlive human civilization. Second definition, principle. What is principle? Principle is a basic truth or law. The word basic is from the word base. So it's something that starts something. For instance, if you look at this plaque has a base and then the upper part. If you take out the base, the upper part cannot stand. It will fall. That is what basic is. So principle is a basic truth. Without it, you can't stand any other thing. Every other thing will collapse. Also, in our educational system, there's what is called basic education. That is the minimum you can get. So if you get it, you can now start adding other things on it. So you see, principle is a basic truth or law. It's basic. You can't do any other thing except you have put those ones in place. Second definition of the word principle. A principle is a fundamental truth. That word fundamental, another word for it is foundational. So in constructing a building, for instance, the first thing that is built in a building is called the foundation. So when it comes to a principle forms the foundation for building anything. Whatever you want to build in life, you must first of all lay it on certain principles. You want to build a career, there are principles that govern career building. You want to build a home, a family, there are principles that govern it. You want to build your health, there are principles of healthy living. You want to build relationship, there are principles that govern relationship. Whatever it is, you want to build financial wealth, there are principles that govern financial wealth. Of course, that's part of what we are discussing in this series. So you see, principle is a fundamental truth, is a primary truth. Like you can't start talking about going to secondary school without primary school first. So you will do primary school before secondary school. You don't jump the gun. No. So principle is primary. It has to start there. Principle is principal. Principal. You know, when you get to a school and somebody tells you that maybe one of the students, you get to a secondary school, for instance, a student tells you that so and so thing is happening in a school. You may not necessarily believe that person, because in as much as the person is a student of the school, but you will need a more authentic source. If a teacher tells you, you may believe to a certain degree that that thing is true. But if the principal tells you, then you believe it, because the principal is the highest authority in a secondary school. That is why a principal is the principal. It has to start, everything starts with it. So anything I want to build. But I want to say something about principles. Principles have different strengths. The strength of a principle is dependent on the source that produced it. Every material that we see is as strong as the source that produced it. For instance, the toilet roll is as strong as wood because it was produced from wood, just like table produced from wood. For instance, wooden tables. So if wood can burn, the toilet roll can burn. Paper was produced from wood. So if wood can burn, paper can burn. If my life is built on certain principles and I took those principles from certain sources that are fluid, my life will never be stable. For instance, some people take principles from peers. They get their principles from peers, from associating with their peers. Some get their principles from news, from social media, from philosophers, and all the rest of them. Time will fail me to start telling you some of these principles that people took from some of these areas. So they take it, and their lives are as stable as the sources from which they took their principles. But you see, if I take my principles from the Bible, my life will be as stable as the Bible. And we have said it earlier that the Bible is the most consistent and stable book that you can get. So if I take my principles from the Bible, my life will be stable. Principles make men principal men, and these principal men become principalities. So a man's life is worth nothing except it is founded on principles. And then the longevity, the lasting nature of a man is dependent on the quality of his principles or her principles. Now, in the next broadcast, I'm going to show you some examples of principles I personally live by. We're going to continue the definitions of terms in the next broadcast. But before I go, I want to ask you to join me. Please permit me to invite you to our service tomorrow at 7 in the morning. It's a communion, healing, and prophetic service at the Pottersville International Christian Center, 107 Ifite Road, Oka, Anambra State, Nigeria. It's just along the road. Just ask anybody, the Pottersville. They are going to stop you right in front of the church. There are certain things we'll be teaching tomorrow's morning, that is communion service. Please do not miss it. Get your friends, invite your friends as well. And I'm going to come your way again next Saturday as we continue the series. Please stay fit and be strong. You can go back and look at some of these things and then study them more in-depthly. Until I come your way next week Saturday, keep living in the worldly place. God bless you.